People love Paris Campbell. I mean, I like him, but all right. So let's see here. But Keem Butler, I think, is starting to get the love back, though. All right. Nice. All right, so let's see here. All right, so let's see here. I think we're ready to roll. All right, well, welcome everybody. It's Thursday night, so you know what time it is. It's time for some more Roundtable, which means that me and Colin get to sit and chat about rookies and probably not bash Miko Hardman as much as we did last week, but you never know. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
Colin, how are you tonight, brother?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, man?
I'm ready for the weekend. I'm ready for next weekend. We get a nice long weekend because I
There
need
you
a
go.
day off, man.
Yeah, I bet.
So first, we got to do the announcements. We got to talk all about the things going on. So for those of you that are new to the community, because we have added a ton of new guys this week, welcome. Colin and I tend to get together on Thursday night and talk. Right now, it's all rookies, but soon we'll get back into Devy stuff. We'll get into talking about the 2020 class. As we get into the season, we'll probably get you ready for your drafts in other ways, talking about stuff as we get closer to the season. Right now, we're just talking about 2019 rookies. But we want to welcome you guys. If you're over on Facebook or Twitch or any of the other streaming platforms that we're on. We also want to make sure you guys check out rotoheat.com. That is the website that is a part of this whole community. And we want to thank Rick, our fearless leader, for Rick Butts, for making this all happen and getting us all going in this direction. Don't forget to check out Rob Sullivan and Kevin Kloss. They each have podcasts. So our man Rob is doing the Sully's 2 Cents podcast, which we are trying to talk him into doing Sully's 2 Cents about hockey because he's up in the Great White North, so he must know all things hockey.
I want to say right now that I have the Bruins on completely on silent right in front of me. So there might be a couple moments if you see this that there might be a couple of these moments, but I want to make sure that I have the Bruins on, that I can still see them as we're doing this.
You mean there's still hockey going on?
There is. There is. Almost over.
I thought hockey stopped after the Red Wings left.
No, maybe for you, not for me.
And then also we got Kevin Kloss with the Dynasty Blockheads podcast. So make sure you check those two guys out. I know that Rick and a few of the other guys are working on getting some other podcasts going, but I don't want to steal their thunder. So when they're ready to announce those, I will let them do it. And then also, am I missing anything? Those are the ones right now that are going on.
Those are the current ones. There's one or two others in the works that we're not going to mention as of now, but that is what the current slate is.
Okay, so make sure you keep it locked into our Facebook. Discord, if you aren't on the Discord, if you're new to the Facebook group, we also have a Discord channel server that we run that has everything from fantasy football to fantasy golf to DFS stuff to baseball.
Fantasy NASCAR's in there.
Fantasy NASCAR's in there. I'm not that dangerous yet. I haven't jumped in the NASCAR world. But Colin and I will talk about music all day on there with Rick and a few of the other guys.
Music, games. I've been the guy who's been calling the downfall of Game of Thrones for a couple of years. You know, you'll see me gloat about that every once in a while.
Close your mouth. They really should have made this 2 seasons. They're going way too fast through the character development. How can the Mad Queen go mad so quickly?
I knew this was happening, man. As soon as, we're not going to get into that now, but as soon as George left the writer's room halfway through season 4, you can see a stark drop-off. This is what I've been saying for years. Now people are actually starting to see it between the end of season 7 and now this year, so it's okay. Everyone's starting to catch up to me.
Yeah. Well, there's always hope for the prequels that'll be coming next. I keep hearing all that chatter.
Well, it's supposed to be the same writers, so just keep that in mind.
Slow down, Dave and Dave.
D&D are supposed to be doing are supposed to be head writing. So
as long as they don't speed up past the story, I'm not going to complain.
Well, that's all they've done, so we'll see.
So this is not the Dynasty Roundtable Game of Thrones podcast or stream.
No.
We will probably have to do some sort of Game of Thrones stream at some point because there's lots to talk about.
maybe next week, just because we got series finale coming up. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a quick 30-minute on a Monday, Tuesday night if we're free. Who knows?
Yeah,
We don't
why
know.
not? We like to have fun with this stream, so anything's possible.
Absolutely.
But tonight we're going to talk rookies. So the last few weeks, if you guys been watching, we talked about the offensive rookies, and then last week we spent a long time talking about the defensive rookies, kind of comparing and contrasting. We also have been working on getting our IDP rankings together, so there will be ADP up on rotoheat.com. I don't know if it is yet, so that'll be coming.
That's on Colin. I'm 90 players deep. As soon as I get to, it's so hard. I can't come up with good justifications from 90 on. But I'm trying so hard.
Well, you better
it's
hurry
hard.
up.
No, it's so difficult once you get it was hard even getting past like 55. I got down to I think I'm at like 92, and then I have 13 players that I value exactly the same, and I'm starting to just quite literally just trying to find like the smallest reason to rank them over another, and I got into a writer's block of sorts, just sitting there, and I was like,
George R. Martin. Eh?
I did. I was like, I can't figure this out. I gotta give myself a night. I'll get back to it. Hopefully tomorrow I'll have them done.
Yeah, I've started going in and kind of shuffling things around a little bit because I don't necessarily like where things are at. So, keep it locked to Roto Heat. We will get those ADP rankings up here shortly, so we can help you with your IDP drafts. Although I think it's safe to say at this point, for the most part, the top few IDP guys are kind of locked in. Even if you don't agree they're 1 through 5, I mean, they're all kind of in that top 5.
Yeah, there's. I would even say that there's a top 12 for the most part. They're that top 10, top 12. I mean, it kind of depends on, do you want the guys that are going to help you now, or would you rather have the guy that might give you similar production but help you longer term? But for the most part, there really are a top 5 at each position for the most part that you can really nail down, and then you have to start splitting hairs whether you want the youth or whether you want the current star power.
Right, absolutely. I can't argue that. So without ado, hopefully everybody on Facebook sees us okay. It looks like Nick says he can. So I see that Chris was having a little trouble. Hopefully, Chris, you can see us. If not, other people can. So we'll have to figure out what's going on and make sure you can see what's going on.
I want to check the bandwidth, bud.
You may want to check the bandwidth for sure. Oh yeah, he says Rutro. So all right, Chris. Well, hopefully things get straightened out for you. We want to make sure you get all the content you can handle. So we're gonna talk what it looks like. I think I'm on draft 4 or 5. That's an IDP, and I think the drafts that I've done have all been IDP, PPR, but no Superflex Incorporated. But I know that you've come prepared to talk Superflex and tight end premium. So we'll kind of shuffle things around as we're talking. We'll also point out where Superflex and tight end premium kind of skips around in this, because I think we have probably a top 10 to 20, but then Superflex and tight end premium will really kind of shuffle that up a little bit. So we'll make sure we bring those into the equation as well. So I think it's safe to say at 1-1 is probably whatever version of Harry Jacobs you like, based on what you like.
Right.
What do you think about? I mean, are we safe to agree that that's probably about the 1-2 right there?
I mean, that can be yours, but that's my 7 and 9. So
I guess I'm trying to look at it from the perspective.
That's the consensus.
That's kind of the consensus amongst the world. Yeah. Because what I want them to be prepared going into the draft, knowing, listen, if you love Josh Jacobs, he's going at 1-1. Whether you like that or not, if you want him, this is where you got to go to get him. I don't have 1-1 in any league, but I don't like him anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I had the highest picks I had were 102 and 103. And I traded both of those. I used 102 for Juju and 202. Ended up taking Drew Lock at 202. So I ended up having quite the draft there. Actually, sorry, that was Hawkinson was 202.
I love Hawkinson. I've been trying to get him everywhere.
Yep. Exactly, I'm doing the same. And he's a guy that I do own in the majority of my leagues right now. I'm a big Hawkinson guy. Is my video frozen?
Your video's frozen, but we're getting that audio crystal clear.
It's so weird because on my
hilarious.
I know it is pretty hilarious. I'll give myself that. I know, right? I have no idea why that's not loading at all, but it's happening.
It's,
Um, so it is what it is.
it is frozen on Skype too, so it's not just. It looks like it's a Skype deal.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yep, it's probably Skype because my everything's running on my phone.
Well, we can go
But
for a minute and see if it catches up. You never know.
yeah, yeah. But yes, you're right. The average draft right now, um, in standard one quarterback, it's Jacobs and Harry. In Superflex, it's Jacobs, Harry, and Kyler.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then you gotta, that's the top three in just about every single format that I've been playing in right now. And then you gotta just figure out how you want to roll with it from there.
Sure. Yeah, I think in the Roto Heat Superflex, one of them, I'm sure there's plenty, but one of the ones that I'm in with Rick and Ray and a bunch of the guys, I think they took Kyler at 1-1, if I remember correctly. It was wild. Oh,
Go 1-1 in most of my super flexes.
yeah.
He's not my 1-1 there. He's my 1-2.
Yeah, no.
But and even then, I don't even feel good about him being 1-2. It's just with that current evaluation that we have on super flexes. So I'm just gonna run through my top 6 guys for Superflex.
Okay.
Because I play mainly Superflex tight end premium. I'm just running that through now. My top 6 and after 6, I do have there's a drop off for me. My top 6 goes big surprise 101 Debo, big surprise.
I've
2
gotten
is
him in
Kyle.
all of my leagues except for one.
Yep. The only league I don't have him in is my own home league, which bothers me the most. It's the one league that the only league that I do not own him in right now is the league that I commission, and it's really bothering me because I had the pick. I think it was the pick before that, or the pick after him. Sorry.
That's awesome.
And I took Haskins, but it's okay because Superflex 109, I take Haskins. I feel good there.
Oh yeah.
And my top 6 officially is Debo, Kyler. 3 I actually have Hawkinson. I'm a big Hawkinson guy. I understand if you want to take Fant instead of him, which we're about to get to Fant. 4 for me is DK. I don't love the player. I think that he has a lot of work to do. But with that being said, he has an insane ceiling if he hits it.
Well, especially with no Doug Baldwin, he's going to get the chance even quicker.
Exactly. It's either going to be DK or Jennings this year that's going to have some value.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which of the two? So I like DK a lot. I have DK there at 104 tentatively. 105 is Haskins, and then 106 is Fant. And then after Fant, I have that's the end of a tier. I have those top 6. You can make any argument for them, and the Bruins just scored. So you can make any argument for those top 6 to go 1 through 6 for me. But after that, that's where I do have a tier before the Jacobs and Harry tier. For me, I don't have any real interest in any of those guys. I don't own either of them in any league, and I don't think that it's going to happen for me.
No, I'm not willing to reach. Okay, so I'm gonna based on the leagues that I've been in and the ADP that I'm seeing, I'm gonna talk about the top 6 that I'm seeing being drafted, and we can compare and contrast a little bit. I'm gonna try to play devil's advocate with the ADP. So 101 we're seeing Josh Jacobs, 102 N'Keal Harry. Somewhere, and this is really surprising, but I had one league that AJ Brown went 1-3. The other thing that I'm seeing is running backs going way too high. Miles Sanders and David Montgomery. So I had one league where Miles Sanders went 104, then DK at 1-5, Paris Campbell at 1-6, David Montgomery at 1-7. I've seen other leagues where DK will go in the 1-4 spot, 1-3 spot. So you're seeing kind of a mix of those, and I don't agree with it. And I don't know if Colin's still with me, so hopefully, Colin, are you there? Oh, I lost him. All right, folks, I'm going to get Colin back here. Give me 1 second. And the struggle that I have with with that is that, don't reach based on need. We say it all the time. I mean, if you listen to Rick, it's best player available, best player available. So make sure when you guys are doing your drafts, don't reach unless, and like I said the last few weeks, make sure you guys are happy with what happens in your draft. The thing that you don't want to do is get to a place. Oh yeah, Michael, we'll do a top 10 ADP for you here in a minute. I'm working on getting Colin back on the line. I can't. There we go.
Hey there, friend.
We're getting you back.
Can you see me at least?
I can't see anything.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck is going on with this. I had an update now. It's not working for me.
No, it's all right. We're having fun with it. Michael wants to talk top 10 ADP, so I was kind of talking what I've been seeing, in my top 10 in these last few drafts that I've had. And we're losing you again. Ooh. Are you still there?
I am still here, but
okay.
I still think you can see me.
No, I can't, but you at least dinged. I was like, oh, well, maybe things are better.
Weird. Yeah, I have no idea.
Well, as long as we can get the audio, we can make it work.
Yeah, that's true.
Technical difficulties happen all the time.
They do.
So, I was just saying that I was kind of looking at the ADP. I went and took the leagues that I'm in and kind of looked at the ADP. And one trend that I've been noticing that is, and I was warning everybody against, is the fact that don't reach based on need. I saw in both the leagues that I've drafted in the last week, both are full IDP, PPR, not Superflex or tight end premium, but I've seen running backs go way too high. One league I saw Miles Sanders go at the 1-4. I saw David Montgomery go at 1-7. I've seen David Montgomery go at 1-5. I've seen Miles Sanders go at 1-5. And it's just don't reach based on need. Like we talk about, best player available. If you love a guy, I guess I can't argue on that. I would just say be careful, because just because you love a guy, 2020 is coming, and everyone's talking about the hurricane of amazing running backs that are going to come. So if you love a running back in this draft, I'd just wait a year.
Yep, I completely agree, and that's I'm in a lot of leagues where that was my plan this year. This year I was the guy who grabbed at least one of the tight ends, grabbed one or two or more of the two quarterbacks. In one league, my rookie auction league, I ended up getting not only Haskins, but I got Haskins, Locke, and Daniel Jones, all for cheaper than Kyler Murray went for. I literally got the three of them for $100 cheaper than just Kyler, and I was very, very proud of myself there.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So it was great. I got like 30 roster spots. I grabbed them. I grabbed Ryan Finley on that team because he's gonna be a starter eventually, regardless of whether we think he should be or not.
I don't know that he's allowed to play football.
It's Cincinnati. He's gonna start. I agree. I don't know if he should be able to play football either, but he's going to. And there's a lot of different ways that you can go about it. I like personally in this draft class, I want to get two of those quarterbacks if I can at whoever it is that goes in the second round of Superflex. For some reason, even in Superflex drafts, Locke is like going around 205 or later. I cannot understand why that's happening, but I'm happy to take him. And Daniel Jones is going in like the late second to early third round in Superflex drafts, which again I don't get why that's happening.
I wound up getting him in the third round of our Roto Heat one the other week. I was like, I'll take him.
Yeah, I got him at 211. Yeah, I did the same thing. I didn't plan on taking him, but he was sitting there, and I went, well, all right then. I guess that's my next move.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I value all three of those the top three running backs in this class are within like 3 or 4 picks for me. I have them all just bunched up together because I value them all very similarly.
Oh, absolutely.
I like Jacobs a little bit more than the other guys, but that's really not saying much.
No.
If we're going by just a talent standpoint, I like Miles Sanders the most, except That's a crowded backfield already, and then they just added Jordan Howard to it. There's still rumors that Jay Ajayi might be going back to Philadelphia.
That's terrifying.
There's so much that no one has any idea about that
Yeah.
entire team, other than the wide receiver position, where there you go, buckle
Right.
your seatbelt because my 6 through 12 rankings here are 7 through 12 because we went through six. 7, I have Josh Jacobs. Don't love it. I feel okay about it. 8, I have JJ Arcega-Whiteside. Yes, I do have Whiteside before N'Keal Harry.
I
Like we
can't
said
say
during.
much. I did wind up getting JJ at the end of the first round in one of my drafts and felt pretty good
Yep,
about it.
I like him a lot, and I know we had this discussion, during the rookie shows. I said that JJ is 90% of what N'Keal Harry is, except he, in my opinion, is in a much better situation than Harry is. People are talking about the whole. It's like, oh yeah, I know it's Belichick and the young receivers never prosper there. Yeah, but Belichick's never spent a first round pick on a receiver, so that's why it's going to be different. It's not going to be any different. Okay, New
No.
England is the hardest system for any wide receiver. There's a reason why they bring in Chad Ochocinco and he gets 25 catches for 200 yards in the season after he's coming off like 1,000 yards the year before. N'Keal Harry seems like a nice guy. He in his interviews, I've liked what I heard. The one thing is he doesn't seem like he is this you know football IQ out of nowhere sort of player. You know, there's a couple guys in this class that I really would have liked if they landed in New England. Debo would have been a guy I like a lot if he landed there. Uh, there's a couple. Andy Isabella would have worked just because of his route running. Same goes for Hunter Renfro. There's a couple guys that if they ended up in New England, I would have liked them more than I currently do.
Yeah.
Harry's not one of them. So, being that I've said that JJ is basically N'Keal Harry, he's essentially the exact same player, but now he's in a better situation. I'm ranking him ahead. I liked JJ's film, and the other thing that I talked about earlier in the year, I should
Hmm.
say, about him. Arcega Whiteside has put up, very similar, not the same statistics as Harry, but he's put up very similar production on the actual field. Whether it is that he's going to be, he doesn't have the same red zone targets, doesn't have the same touchdowns, the stats don't look the same. But if you watch how he's actually affecting the game, he has a very similar on-field presence to each team,
Sure.
and he's playing in Stanford as opposed to playing in Arizona State, which that is a big, big bonus for him in my mind. He's
Yeah.
playing against much tougher competition as opposed to he's not playing against as many future plumbers. That's the honest truth. He's still playing against a couple, but he's not playing against the future blue collar workers. Some of those guys are going to be white collar workers. Some of them are going to be administrative assistants eventually. That's he's playing against some of those guys. Good for him. Um, so I do like JJ Moore. I'm sure I'm going to be ridiculed by most people, probably actually including Rick, because I know Rick is saying the same thing with Harry as I know that you don't love him, but Belichick's never drafted a wide receiver this early.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
but every single receiver that they've taken in rounds 2 and 3 have been horrible. But not even just that. Basically, every single receiver that they have taken has not turned out well. Everyone goes the whole, oh, well, Julian Edelman. They drafted Julian Edelman as a quarterback and then converted him to wide receiver in the 7th round. I don't count that as his, drafting wide receiver. Legitimately, the best guy that Bill may have drafted was Malcolm Mitchell, and he's now
poor
out of the
guy.
league.
Yeah. That was, yeah.
And
That injury
exa-
concern. That's tough.
exactly, and that's the thing. It's not anything against Harry. I just, as a Patriots fan, I have no faith whatsoever that Belichick can actually coach young wide receivers. That's really what it comes down to. Um, so then at 10, it feels weird to put this. At 10, I actually have David Montgomery. We've talked about him. I don't love the player. I do like his situation. Granted, if I am owning David Montgomery, I am 100% adding Mike Davis to my roster.
Oh yeah,
I'm not owning him without Mike Davis.
absolutely.
The only place that I have David Montgomery is a league where I previously owned Mike Davis. And I was sitting in the draft, and I was like, I need one of these three running backs. I'm going to take whoever is the cheapest. David Montgomery was a little bit cheaper than Miles Sanders. I ended up with him. Um, and that's kind of how I look at it. If you are determined that you're taking a running back this year, whether it's a great decision or not, if you're determined to do that, don't go for the guy that is going to be the most expensive. Don't go for the most perceived value. Take whoever is left of these three. They are, they all have about the same level of opportunity because regardless of what we hear from Gruden about how, Jacobs is going to be this every down guy, he's been saying the same thing about Jalen Richard for for 2 years now, and Richard is not going to go away. That's the thing that people aren't talking about. Jalen Richard.
Good.
Well, exactly. It's not because he's average.
No.
Richard is really good. If he was on a better team, he could probably be a mid RB2. That's one of the Jalen Richard on Miami would be like RB13. It would be great. I'd love to see him on a team that has no one there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Jacobs is going to be a decent running back this year. I mean, he might give you mid RB2 numbers, but that's not worth 101.
No.
That's the thing.
Well,
so,
and I've been telling guys that have asked me about it, trade the pick. If you can get good value for it, I would trade it. Get a player, get something for next year. I mean, whatever. But it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I'm not interested in grabbing that running back who
might be okay.
Yeah, might be okay.
Right.
So I need to make sure we answer before we go any further. I want to make sure we answer Michael Swope's question about top 10 ADP because I've been leaving him hanging here for a minute. So we'll get to his top. So I've got the top 10 ADP pulled up here.
Yep.
So top 10 doesn't have any IDP guys. So Michael, if you're looking for IDP in the top 10, they're just outside of that. So ADP wise, it's N'Keal Harry, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, David Montgomery, Paris Campbell, Marquise Brown, Deebo Samuel, JJ Arcega-Whiteside. I would tell you half of that list I wouldn't draft in the top 10. That's for sure. Buyer beware.
Yeah, I don't get why it is that just because they aren't tight end premium leagues, people aren't touching Fant or Hawkinson in the top 10. Like even in just a standard PPR,
ADP has them at 11 and 12, so they're just outside the top 10.
Okay.
Followed by Mecole Hardman.
Right. If we're taking out Superflex, or a tight end premium, they're still going to be at like 7 and 9 for me. And that's the thing is that like, so maybe I'm a little bit higher on both of the players, but this is one of the better tight end classes that we've seen in a couple of years. I know people still talk about the whole OJ Howard, Evan Ingram class, but I think Hawkinson absolutely has the ability to be not a Gronk, because I don't think we're going to ever see a tight end have the same level of fantasy-wise as Gronk did. But could we see, the next Tyler Eifert come out of TJ Hawkinson? Maybe.
The actual playing Tyler Eifert, not the injured Tyler Eifert?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like the actual playing Tyler Eifert without all those injuries. Yeah. I think it's absolutely possible. And remember that he was a top 3 tight end for like 2 or 3 seasons. Yeah, he was an absolute stud for a few years. Mm-hmm. I think that's the way that Detroit, if they're smart, they'll use him because they only
uses the tight end.
Exactly. That's the big caveat.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Michael also has another question. Now that we're talking tight ends, Colin, Josh Oliver in Jacksonville with Nick Magic. How do you feel about Josh Oliver? And his ADP right now is 44, so he is past guys like Kale Waring, Darwin Thompson, Darius Slayton, Gary Jennings, Drew Lock. He's kind of below those guys.
So I would rather have Gary Jennings and Drew Lock of that list. Mm-hmm. But I do have him, so he's around 38, 39 for me. He is my tight end. Let me make sure. My tight end's 6 in this class. So I like him. I don't like. It's one of those I don't love the player, and frankly, I don't know if I love Nick Foles throwing to the tight end constantly because other than Ertz, he hasn't really done that at any point in his career.
Well,
Which is
let's just call it like it is. When he's not been in Philadelphia, he doesn't know what a quarterback
exactly
is. So
exactly. But even before Ertz was there, and they had decent tight ends, they never. Foles, even when he had his miracle season, wasn't targeting tight end as often,
no,
which makes me think that even if Oliver, he could be one of those guys that could be a top 15 tight end in actual NFL terms, but could be tight end 26 in fantasy year after year. Just because I don't know if he's going to get the targets, he'll probably get red zone targets, but I kind of see them using him the same as they used Mercedes Lewis, which is going to be a spot star time to time, and that's it.
he's best ball. That's it. I mean,
Exactly.
Mercedes
Yep.
Lewis couldn't give you anything consistently ever, really.
Oh no, no. But he would always have 2 or 3, 2 touchdown games a year.
Mm-hmm.
That was the thing. He would throw in 6, 7 touchdowns a year for a while because he would have a couple 2 touchdown games, and if that's your tight end 3 on a deep roster, you can't really complain too much.
No, yeah, no, not at
And
all.
how I'm doing this year with Oliver.
Well, and Michael mentions last pick in round 4. So it sounds like he got him at a good spot. That's kind of the place
Right.
where you're taking guys that you're interested in.
That's dart throw territory.
Yep.
That's exactly where you start taking them.
All right. So we've talked about the top 10. You've gone into your second half. So sprinkle some IDP in there. Where are we starting to see Bosa, Josh Allen, some of these guys coming off the board at? In your list of your kind of top 20 players, because I know they're in there.
Yep. All right. So in my top 20, there's only one. I got Bosa at 15. I have a tier of 14 players. Once the 14th guy goes off the board from, and this is IDP Superflex, tight end premium, whatever. Now, if you're not doing tight end premium, same number. Superflex, he'd probably move up 1 spot, so he's 14 to 15 to me. I like him. There's still injury concerns. As soon as you get past my 14th player in A.J. Brown, though, that's where I go, okay, I can make an argument for him. Would I rather have, Hakeem Butler or Nick Bosa? I can make an argument there either way. Paris Campbell, Nick Bosa, I can make that argument. And then the rest of the guys, I know I would rather have them over, Devin Singletary, Andy Isabella, that sort of territory. So I like the player. Like I said, he's my top IDP, but there's hesitation for him. But we know that the skill is there.
Yeah.
Which is where, as soon as you get past that top 14 of the guys that I like, both skill-wise and opportunity-wise, well, there we go. That's it. Now I'm taking, a shot in the dark that he's going to be nearly as valuable as Joey, who I have as my top IDP.
Right. Well, and the interesting thing, the tough thing with Bosa is there's a couple caveats here. Bosa boys don't seem to know how to stay healthy. There's that injury concern. Nick making the business decision last year, we've talked about it on the show before, but my concern is, where's this head at? It was a smart move. He wasn't going to make himself any better than, the top pick in the draft. You just can't do that. But, that takes some cojones to decide, you know what, I'm good with football. I'll just wait until, next season. I mean, that time off, hopefully it was beneficial for him. What I can say is it has not really hurt his draft value. In the multiple leagues, I've got all my different leagues up at this point. I'm looking at where he's gone. He's never fallen later than 20. He's gone at 19 and 20. Either way, any of the drafts I've had him in is either 19 or 20. So right, kind of that beginning, early second round pick, depending on how many teams you got.
So the latest that he went for me, I'm gonna pull it up just so I can make sure. So he went at 16 is the latest that he's gone for me. I've been in 2 leagues where he went at in my IDP leagues. I've only had 2 of my IDP drafts so far. He went at 13 and 16.
Wow.
Yep.
13 and 16. That's not. I mean, that's you can't argue that. I mean, because look at 101 in the offensive side. You got your running backs. You got these high end guys. Well, 101 for your defensive side is Bosa. I mean,
Exactly.
if comparable. He's your top IDP guy is better than your top offensive guy in this draft. Quite honestly, I mean, nobody's going to take Bosa at 1-1, but yeah, from a skill set standpoint and the talent, Bosa is going to have a longer and more fulfilling career fantasy-wise than Josh Jacobs will. I mean, just because of not only the position, but the fact that Bosa is just a better talent all the way around.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And we know that, if you're taking a running back at 101, you're realistically only hoping for, 3, maybe 4 years of good production.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why, for me, I only take, especially at running back, I'll only take a running back 101 when it's these guys that I think are can't-miss prospects. How they're Zeke. I liked Geis over Barkley, but I would have taken Geis or Barkley there. Stuff of that sort. Like, if I think they're can't-miss prospects, then that's the only time I'll ever spend 101 on a running back. Usually I'm the guy that if there's a quarterback that I like in that draft in a superflex, I'm going to always take, whoever it is that's that top quarterback, at 101, unless it's the, Geno Smith class, and and for this year, this is one of the, weakest quarterback classes that we've had in a while, which is why I don't have Kyler at 101. I do have a lot of questions about him, but his potential, I can't have him lower than 102, just because I have questions about just about everyone else in this class. Yeah, like I said, I have my top 3 solidified as Debo, Kyler, Hawkinson. However you want to, order 4 through 6 to me, that's up to you. And then however you want to order 7 through 14, go for it. I have it. This is the year where usually I have very strong rankings. Mm-hmm. This is I have tiers, and whatever it is that your team needs more of, or if you want to go for a safer bet, or if you want to really just swing for the fences and hope for a star, that's going to be completely up to each owner.
Yeah, I mean, and we've said it on here a few times, if you love a guy, I want you at the end of your draft to be satisfied with your draft. I never want guys to come out of the draft going, oh, I really made some bad decisions. Now, obviously, bad decisions will be made. Looking back 3-4 years down the road, you're going to see, oh, I really shouldn't have drafted Mecole Hardman in the first round. That's just kind of the way it works. But, if you love a guy, take him. I'm not going to fault somebody, especially in this draft, where there's no set in stone top, 20 guys consensus across the board. Everybody's got kind of their flavor, and it's just kind of the way it works. I've aimed in these drafts that I've done to get 3 guys, and most of the time I've gotten them, and that's Deebo Samuel, T.J. Hawkinson, and Bryce Love. Bryce Love is my taxi squad stash. In any of the leagues, I literally just while we're talking, I've got another league going that I drafted him at 310, and it's in a 14-team IDP league. I drafted him at 310, hoping to leave him on the taxi squad for the 3 years I get him on the taxi squad, and hopefully by then he's recovered from his injury and taken a nice Chris Thompson type role in Washington, where he's backing Darius Geis, and they're kind of a nice 1-2 combo.
I think you only have to really put him on a taxi squad for this year.
I hope so. I hope that injury recovers quickly.
Right. Well, the thing is, it wasn't a severe tear.
No.
It was a minor tear, which is a big thing. And then the fact that Chris Thompson's contract is very easy to get out of next year, and the cap hit is insane for what he's really going to be able to bring that roster.
Right.
It doesn't make much sense for them to actually keep him on that team.
Yeah.
So I think that's almost a foregone conclusion that he's going to be getting released.
Well, and if you watch the 2017 Bryce Love tape, he's their best running back. I mean, he's better than Geis in my mind,
No.
You don't think so?
Geis, no. Like I said, I still stand by that. If you look at the college film, Darius Geis's college film was more impressive than Saquon Barkley's.
Oh yeah, I
Darius
remember your. Yep, I remember.
Geis was my favorite running back prospect in years. I still have him valued as my RB8 in startups. Like I know, make that face all you want, man. I get him. I get him in every startup. I don't take him at RB8 because I don't have to.
Right? No,
But
no, not at all.
right, but if push comes to shove, and I'm playing with people that know where I rank him, I probably will end up taking him that early if I have to.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing I'm noticing is the more we do this, the more we're gonna have to be careful when we're drafting because guys are knowing what we like and doing it.
Well, here's the thing. This is why I love auction startups, and I'm sure we'll get into, our preferences on startups another time, but I love auction startups because of this. I don't do the whole, I don't do the I'm going to get this guy no matter what the price is and then fill it out. I'm like, nah, I go bargain shopping. I usually don't get any of those top like 10 guys in most leagues. Sometimes I'll be like, all right, I want to get one of these top 3 running backs, and then I'm just going to make everything else work. But typically, I'm the guy that, nope, I go bargain shopping. That's all I do. If I'm not going bargain shopping and I'm spending money on someone, early on, then that something's up because that's not how I do anything. Like that's what I just did in the rookie auction. And, there was a league that this was I took over an orphan team, and only one of the guys I'd played with before, and he even knew. Like everyone else in the league is like you missed out on the first 10 nominations. You missed out. You had the second most money. You didn't get Harry or Kyler or any of these guys. And I'm like, nope, I didn't. And instead, I come back with instead of spending $600 of my $1,300 budget on one of those guys, instead I end up getting uh, Daniel Jones, Locke. I got Haskins all for less than 500. I spend 130 on Debo. Got Irv Smith on that roster. I came back with a haul of I think 11 rookies, as opposed to I could have paid for 2 to 3 of the top guys.
That's not smart.
I came back with 13 guys that I like.
Yeah,
And
long
I
term,
just
that's just not a smart move.
Yeah, 13 players. I enjoy what I did. I'm very happy with myself. And I did get Kelvin Harmon on that roster, in case you're wondering.
Yeah, I'm seeing Kelvin Harmon's value start to bounce back, even though he got drafted, in the 6th round. But
yep.
I'm seeing that. So,
all right. Here's a question for you before you read a question for us. Push comes to shove, Mecole Hardman or Kelvin Harmon?
Mecole Hardman.
I can't.
Well,
I got Harmon right after
it depends on where you're saying that, because those two guys are going significantly different spots. If Mecole Hardman is sitting in like the kind of early mid-second round, I would be okay taking him at that point. I don't want to do what's that?
I'm saying on a player standpoint. I'm not even talking about.
Oh no, player-wise, I like Kelvin Harmon better. I thought you were talking about kind of where their value is. I think Kelvin Harmon. See, there's and I was talking to, and I don't think he's watching right now, but I was talking to Aaron Justice about player body types, and there's very few guys in this draft that really have that kind of wide receiver 1 frame, and Kelvin Harmon just got that.
Yeah, before the draft happened, he was my 101.
He was your 101, and then
the rest
of the NFL world said, "Colin, you're outside of your mind."
It's okay, it happens. There's always a couple of guys every year that I have ranked a lot higher than apparently any NFL team does, and then usually those guys outproduce their draft position. And at the time, I look like I'm reaching in rookie drafts, and I'm not wrong. So I'm just expecting the same with Kelvin Harmon. I'm just expecting him to be like this mid wide receiver 3 this year as a rookie, and then he'll take a step to be a mid wide receiver 2 next year. And when people are like, "Wow, you really nailed it on Kelvin Harmon," I'll be like, "I was telling people in Devy leagues in 2017 that Kelvin Harmon was going to be a stud. I'm sticking by it. This is a guy. There's a couple of players that I will die on my island for. Kelvin Harmon is one of them."
Yeah, well, but it's important to come out of the draft with the guys that you love.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like I said, my 3 are Hawk, Debo, and Bryce Love. Now, when it comes to IDP, I don't have like those guys that I want to have. There's guys that I'm intrigued by. Like I want to try to get shares of Montez Sweat just because he fell later in the first round. He's a linebacker in a 3-4 defense. I think he could really be huge for IDP. But another guy that I'm interested in because they've got him listed as a D end is I want to see what Oakland does with Cleveland Farrell. I like the talent. There's we've talked about him. There's question marks. There's things that there's concerns about, but he's got the opportunity to step right in and be kind of that stud defensive end for Oakland that they just don't have. I mean, they don't really have a guy that's the guy.
Right.
So those are two guys that if they fall in the draft, and I've got one of the leagues I'm drafting in right now, we are at the back half of the third round. That's just where I got Bryce Love. I'm looking to try to acquire a couple of picks here so I could try to get Sweat and Farrell. So what do you think about guys like that? Where are your IDP kind of sleepers that aren't in your top 20 that you want to take a chance on?
So that are outside my top 20. So I got the only guy I have in top 20 is Bosa. My next guy, I got Devin Bush sitting there at 23.
Mm-hmm.
I would take Devin Bush around 23. Josh Allen's 25. Devin White's 29. Montez Sweat is 33, and Rashawn Gary's 35. Those are the guys that I'm mainly looking at in this draft and hoping that one of those guys falls to me. I don't feel like I need to get any of these top tier guys because what's going to happen with those top tiered players is that, I would love to be able to, and I'd love to be able to think that we know what we're getting out of him.
Mm-hmm.
The injuries are going to be a massive concern. And in this draft class, as soon as you get past like 302, that's usually in a tight end super flex. Like that's the last guy that I feel really strong about. Usually, is right around that range.
Right.
That's when I'm taking IDPs. Whatever is the top available IDP at that point, I'm taking them usually.
Can't complain about that. That's not a bad thing.
Yep. I got the only league I didn't take a couple young IDPs that I like on is my home league this past off season, but that's because I have a couple really good young players on that team, and it's one of those, Rashawn Gary went undrafted, and then I spent I think about a quarter of my fab on Rashawn Gary because I was like, well, that's a free draft pick that I had marked as like a late third, early fourth round pick that I can now just buy him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm essentially just buying a late third, early fourth for a quarter of my budget in fab, which I feel is fine with me.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to go.
Nope, and that's kind of how I've looked at it. There's been a couple guys that are like that. That not every single IDP is going to get taken in these rookie drafts. A lot of them are going to slip through the cracks, which is what I always suggest to people is that be the guy that has your first waiver claims, you have the first fab budget. Don't blow all of your budget, but look at really who goes undrafted in your leagues. Did, Raquel Armstead go undrafted? Guys like that. And I've seen them go undrafted in a couple leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Is Easton Stick available in a deep super flex league?
Right.
Guys, Clayton Thorson, guys of that, level where I might not think that they're going to be an absolute stud. But if I have a deep roster, and if you're playing in an IDP league, let's be realistic, you probably have a pretty deep roster.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't played in a lot of, Dynasty IDP leagues where they're shallow rosters, and at that point, why? Why are you doing that? Like, why are you playing a 4 or 5 man IDP with like 6 other starters? It's stupid.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, it's stupid.
Yeah.
IDP is for the guys that want to be able to really focus on their fantasy whenever they're at work, which is kind of what I do. It got some downtime. I can scour through the undrafted rookies again, see what's out there. If I missed someone the first 6 times, that's what I use.
It's called being a degenerate. That's what we are at work during the day.
Exactly. That really is. And I don't criticize anyone because those are my people.
It's the world we live in.
Exactly. hey, you got to find, ways to be able to keep yourself entertained other than listen to our podcast. So, if that's what you got to do, then, go through I do that and it's constantly to see who are the unowned rookies all year long.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I missed a guy. Maybe I didn't even realize that this guy got called up from their practice squad sort of situations during the season. And you're going to end up getting a couple guys that are worth a lot there. That's what I did. I have Robert Foster on almost every roster because I was one of those. As soon as Foster got called up from their practice squad before he even played, I added him to most of my rosters.
Well, that's how you got guys like Gus Edwards last year, David Moore from Seattle. I mean, there's a lot of guys that slipped through the cracks that wound up having some starter caliber weeks as you got later in the year.
Yeah, and then there's guys that did have one or two decent games that I got really excited over that, ultimately hurt me because I started playing them when I probably shouldn't have. Deontay Burnett. And there's a couple of those guys, but, it's don't get cute and think that you're outsmarting everyone by starting what's going to be the Jets' third wide receiver. But are they a solid bench piece in a deep league? Absolutely. Keep them over there, make them prove themselves before you put them in the lineup.
Right.
Not just he had like 6 catches for 70 yards. Here we go. Can't wait.
He's the man. Yeah.
Yep. And then he throws up 2 goose eggs in a row when you start him as your second flex. So just
That's funny. That is funny.
Yeah.
So we talked. So the names that I didn't hear you mention are, especially with this Telvin Smith news in Jacksonville. I didn't hear Josh Allen.
Josh Allen's my 25.
Oh,
Sorry.
Is he 25? Okay, maybe I didn't hear you right on that one. So I think that with Telvin Smith going, that just gives him even more opportunity to just fill up on tackles next year.
I agree. I got him in that, depending on the size of your league, first pick of the third round to mid third round. I think that's where he should probably go at this point with Telvin out. He was a little bit lower for me originally, but with that news, I had to move him up a little bit.
Yeah, that's just too much. That's him and Miles Jack, and
exactly.
Leon Jacobs. I think is the third linebacker who I would see getting reps there. But Leon Jacobs just doesn't have the talent that either Jack or Josh Allen have. But I could see Josh Allen easily becoming linebacker 1 in that defense because even Miles Jack hasn't really lived up to that talent. I think he was a second-round pick when he came out, and people heralded him as the next great linebacker.
I could be wrong. I thought he was very end of the first round. I thought they
might have been.
Get him, yeah.
I'd have to
I think
verify.
they moved up to get him towards... Again, I could be wrong. I think it was like 129, I want to say, is roughly where he was taken.
That's a random number, but I can't argue that one. Let me fact checked where Miles Jack was drafted because
I have this weird feeling that it was end of the first round, but again, I could be wrong. I'm just going off of instinct and what I think my knowledge of that Jaguars linebacker position is.
Let's see here. Pick number 36. So he was second round pick 4. But Jacksonville did trade up to get him. So
yes. I remember they traded up to get him. I thought it was like the end of the first round just so they got that 5th year of control. I was wrong. But so I do like Josh Allen a lot. And you're right. I think that he's going to be a strong outside linebacker with, when they run a 4-3, I think they're going to throw him on the edge. Cleveland Farrell, I know we've gone over this. I like the player, don't love the guy. I think he's a solid piece, but Oakland has so many other needs, and he's the most, early 2000s defensive end in the league right now. He's a solid player, but I don't know. He seems like the sort of guy that Gruden's going to just have him bull rush all the time, so unless he's going to get you a constant sacks, and he doesn't really seem like he's going to get constant stacks at the next level, I don't know if he's going to be, a top 15, top 20 defensive end. And at that point, do you really want to have to roster the 27th best defensive end?
It's most likely he's one of those guys that down the road becomes he's the weekly, flyer guy. So bye weeks start happening in the IDP world, and you need a filler. He's one of those guys that I could see somebody picking him up, starting him a week because you need the spot, and then dropping him.
Exactly.
I think he's got talent, and I think because they've got really nothing else. I mean, they took Arden Key last year, but other than that, they've got a lot of nobodies behind them. Josh Morrow, Max Crosby, Ollie Ronald, Alex Bear. I mean, their defensive ends on either side don't look good past Arden Key and Cleveland Farrell. And either one of them I don't think are really rosterable defensive ends, in the long run.
I do own Arden Key on a decent amount of teams, I'll be honest right now.
Really?
On my deep leagues, I do have a lot of Arden Key.
And why is that?
I liked his tape. I know he has a lot of problems. But like you just explained, there's no one else in Oakland except Farrell who's going to play opposite him. So it still doesn't affect that Key is going to be getting a lot of playing time. And he was just one of those guys that I had him pegged as a early second round talent who ended up going in the 5th because of his, personal stuff.
Right.
So because of that, I do have him ranked in that. Ooh, scratching my throat. Thank you.
I have a feeling I keep drinking.
Where I'm trying. I have him in that area where I think he's worth owning, rostering in deep leagues as your defensive end 3-4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Oakland's defense, and I could see a situation where, I mean, their top guys across their defense are intriguing. I mean, they've got good players football-wise. Their defense, their defensive line is solid. Cleveland Farrell at one side, Maurice Hurst, Jonathan Hankins, Arden Key. Your linebackers aren't bad. Markel Lee, Brandon Marshall, Vontez Burfict. Their safeties not bad. Carl Joseph, Lamarcus Joyner, Jonathan Abram. Although we talked about Carl Joseph last week, we don't necessarily believe he's going to stay in Oakland very long. Whether he's traded or whatnot.
Either that, or like you said, that they might play Joyner in the slot, which is possible, which could also happen. If they play Joyner in the slot, then I like that defense even more.
Oh, yeah. Joyner definitely is a better safety, but if he plays in the slot, he's pretty good there. I mean, he's got the instinct. A lot of the issue I always saw with him is he was get burned, because those slot receivers can be shifty, fast guys, so you got to be careful, and he's not the fastest.
He's not, but the money that they paid him to play safety, it actually probably would make more sense if they play him at corner. So it's possible that that's actually what their plan is, and that no one really knows for sure right now.
With John Gruden, you never know.
What are you talking about? This man's a mastermind.
He's something special is what he is. All right, very true. So the other guys that I didn't necessarily hear you mention that I just want to make sure we touch on, with the point that for you IDP guys, like we talked about last week, defensive tackles are just not guys that you want other than Aaron Donald. So I'm not going to touch on Quinnen Williams, Ed Oliver, Jeffrey Simmons, Jerry Tillery. I don't necessarily think any of them are really going to be big IDP guys unless they're spot start guys.
Now, I can see a world where Simmons is useful in IDP, but not this season. I do see a situation where he might be useful next year, just because the way that he plays the position is similar to the way that Donald played the position in college. I don't think he's not going to give you the same production as Aaron Donald, but could he be 75% of that and worth starting as a spot starter? Yes.
Sure.
Same goes for Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver might be a spot starter here and there, but you don't want to own a defensive tackle, that early in a draft. That's just how it is.
He's one of those guys that when it comes to the free agency and you're filling your roster, grab him. That's fine.
Right.
But I'm not paying much for him.
No. Would I spend a mid-5th round? Sure. I mean, why not? In the 5th round, sure. But I'm not going to spend anything as soon as every that I think is moderately useful is gone, then I'll start taking them. That's kind of how I look at with IDPs, is that once those top guys that I like are gone, would I rather be in a non-super flex? Would I rather have, I don't know, Garner Minshew or you know, Ed Oliver sort of thing. That's where I start looking into it in like those really deep leagues. But there's not that many situations where you're going to want to own one of those defensive tackles.
Agreed. Agreed. Um, yeah, some guys that I've been, and I'm just kind of going back through and looking at some of these drafts I've done recently, just to bring up guys that I'm seeing go. That I'm like, oh, I'm surprised he got drafted. Two of them are linebackers, Jermaine Pratt and Bobby Okirky. So Jermaine Pratt went to the Bengals. Okirky went to the Colts. The Colts, they have the opportunity, and they really probably could. He could be viable because they don't have a lot other than Darius Leonard. But I want your take on these two because I've been seeing them go kind of end of draft, later in the draft. But there were guys that I expected to fall through and be free agents that you could pick up later. So what are your take on those two guys when it comes to draftable, non-draftable things like that?
So Okirky, I actually do think it should be drafted. Um, he's a guy that I actually do like a lot, and I've added him on a lot of my rosters just because his play style I think will work off of Darius Leonard really well. They're both really fast, really athletic linebackers. I think it might hurt Leonard more than anything to have Okirky with him. Um, I can't remember who was the other player that you
Jermaine
mentioned.
Pratt, he went to the Bengals.
Like, yeah, Pratt. I'm not any. Yeah, no, I don't really have.
Well, and I was reading a little bit about Okirky leading up to tonight's show,
Yep.
and I did see comparisons to Darius Leonard when it came to the
Yeah,
physical traits, so that makes
yeah, they
sense.
are. They're very similar players. Um, I think the two of them together can just go flying around the field, and that wouldn't surprise me if that's kind of how the Colts try to mask their defensive line.
Hmm.
Is that you just have two of these guys run up as be run stuffers, which fantasy wise would help them a lot. Um,
Absolutely.
right, and that's kind of how I think. I think he's worth a late fourth round pick sort of situation. Um, I have him ranked higher than probably a couple guys that, as far as draft capital, are probably worth a lot more. As far as NFL draft capital, I should say.
Right.
Um, the only other guy that I've seen go undrafted in a lot of my IDP leagues that I think will be useful, even though I don't love the player, is Taylor Rapp.
Oh yeah,
Um,
safety from LA.
Rapp's a
Yep.
guy that, yeah, he's gone on undrafted in most of my leagues. We've talked about him. I don't love the player. I do think that he's going to have, he'll average probably 55 to 65 tackles a year. Maybe one or two interceptions, but he's not that fast to do that. But I think, if you're playing in a league with pass deflections and, pass interrupted and stuff like that, he's going to be worth an ad.
Well, and his issue will wind up being Eric Weddle. I mean, Eric Weddle, at least this year, will be Eric Weddle. Eric Weddle's there this year with John Johnson. I don't think Rock sees the field except to sub out and help give them guys some rest. So he's one of those guys that if you're picking him up, I would almost even wait till later in the year and kind of stash him in their taxi squad if possible. Things like that. Like he's a guy that I think is intriguing, but isn't a you're expecting to get anything out of him this year.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think you might see something from him this year, but you're not going to get starter level numbers from him for sure.
No, definitely not. So, is there anybody else that you think we need to mention if you're drafting, 2-3 rounds, including, IDP, offensive, defensive, the whole thing? Is there anybody that we didn't mention that needs to be brought up to the folks that are watching to make sure they think about as they're drafting? What's a name that we didn't talk about that we need to?
So not IDP worthy, but one guy that I think is being undervalued, especially in tight end premium leagues right now, is Dawson Knox.
Oh, from Buffalo.
Uh,
Yep.
Knox is a guy athletically can do just about everything. He's actually a good blocker. There's no one else, right now on that roster in Buffalo to really take that tight end position away from him. So I think that he's going to end up being a fairly productive guy his rookie year. Josh Allen, does like to have that security blanket in the tight end too. So he's a mid third round pick to me in tight end premium, but I've seen him go in the fifth round in a lot of leagues, late fourth round sort of situation.
Well,
I
Tyler
think
Croft's not exactly the epitome of health, so it's not like this
not
guy
just
can't get
he's,
on there.
he's a blocking tight end. That's
Right.
the thing. Like they brought him in to be a blocking tight end because that's really all he has successfully done in his career. He's not going to catch the ball. There people over the years that have been saying the whole it's like, oh, Eifert might be out, but don't worry, Tyler Croft is going to be fantasy viable. I've been saying for years. I'm like, I don't know what Tyler Croft it is that you think that this is, but if it's the same player that we've been watching for years, it's not going to be viable. He's not a fantasy relevant player at all.
Mm-hmm.
He's a blocking tight end. He might get a couple here and there, red zone touchdowns, but that's it. Knox is the exact opposite. Knox can block fairly well, but he can actually run decent routes. He's a very athletic guy. And with the way that Buffalo has completely rebuilt their offense, don't be surprised if he actually ends up being a tight end too this year, even as a rookie.
Well, and it wouldn't surprise me if. So you mentioned Eifert, Croft. Their former team, Drew Sample. Is a guy that I would say at the back of your draft. If you're taking a flyer on a guy and you need a tight end, especially in the premium world, he's a guy that I would put on there and see what happens.
Right. I mean, they spent a mid-second on him. I don't love Sample as a player, but
he's going to have an opportunity.
Exactly. He's going to have the opportunity, and we know that Cincinnati historically likes using the tight end. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't really have anyone else in front of him that's going to take much time away from, CJ Uzoma, but I don't think Uzoma's anything special. I know that there's a lot of people out there in the Dynasty community that do, and I don't understand it, but I don't think he's anything, really. I think, if they liked him, they wouldn't have just spent a fair first half of the second round pick on a tight end.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yep.
So
same reason Ryan Finley. I don't like Ryan Finley, but he's going to start a game. He's going to start a couple games in Cincinnati. That's what they do. They take their guys. They usually develop their guys for a little bit, and then they start. Look, who would have guessed that Andy Dalton would have been a 10-year starter? Okay. So look at it that way. Like, right. Finley's not going to be good, but could Finley be a starter for 2 years before, in 2023 they take, whoever's going to be one of the top recruits, in 2021 eventually. Like, I don't know. I can't project that far ahead of time. But is that something that I would not be surprised at all? No. I actually half expect Ryan Finley to be a starter for like 2 years.
Yeah, I can see a world where it happens. Poor Cincinnati fans if it does, but
yeah,
that's gonna be rough. But I can work myself through a process that has Ryan Finley leading the team for a little while.
Yep.
It's not a good thing, but it's possible.
But no, it shouldn't be a thing, but it's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I explain it. I don't wish that on Bengals fans. I really wish I could say it won't happen. But I think it's almost like a foregone conclusion at this point that he is going to start for like at least one season. Maybe he'll start for 8 games and then they'll realize, oh man, this was a horrible mistake. We should take someone else. But he's going to get the starting job the majority of a season, if not longer.
Absolutely, I can't argue that if that happens. I'll feel bad, but it is what it is. So
I think it's going to be the same thing with Easton Stick. I think whenever Rivers walks away, I think Stick is going to have 6 games or longer of a leash, and I like that player a lot more than Finley.
Yeah, I like him skill a lot more. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be good with the Chargers, but at least skill wise, I like him a lot more than Ryan Finley. So we'll see about him too. But I think he's a guy that in Superflex leagues, I've been throwing him on my roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it never hurts to take a shot.
Attack. Exactly. Same. He and Jarrett Stidham I value almost equally.
I can't complain. That's a fair evaluation. Both have opportunity.
Right.
Ethan Stick I think is a better player, but
yeah, exactly. Stick is a better player. Stidham's in a little bit of a better opportunity, but and he had a little bit higher draft capital. But I like both of the players, for different reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stick was a guy that I actually, at the time, would not have shocked me if he ended up going in the second round. He was a guy that I don't think the player is fantastic, but I see, when there was a lot of, there's a lot of hype around him for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I at least get where the hype was coming from with him. I'd never understood it with Ryan Finley. I still don't understand it with Ryan Finley.
No.
But he's But he's gonna play.
Very true. All right, so I think we're going to wrap it up tonight. I think we've gotten a good, couple rounds worth of guys that we talked about.
I agree.
I haven't throw them up in the Discord, throw them up on the Facebook. We're constantly seeing polls out there. Who would you take? Who would you trade? Make sure you guys let us know. We're here to help. And like we said, we will continue to post content regularly. Keep it locked to rotoheat.com for our ADP for IDP. There's also ADP for a lot of other categories. So keep it locked to rotoheat.com. We're going to be releasing that stuff real soon, and we're going to continue to update the site with more information. It's going to be out there for you because we want to help you be successful. So make sure you keep it locked there. You see, you don't see Colin, but you see his Twitter handle just underneath his.
See the Twitter handle.
Yeah, just underneath his name, you see his Twitter handle. Next week, you'll see his face. I'm sure we'll get all this figured out.
Yeah, we will. And, I know we haven't really discussed it much either on or off air, but I think that at some point, we'll start doing like Devi ranks and stuff. Mm-hmm. I know that I plan on getting them out. We're at that point in the year where as soon as rookie drafts really start to die down and before spring training and training camps really get going, mm-hmm. This is about the time where we can start talking about Devi and it won't feel weird. So I'm sure it'll be coming out pretty soon.
I'm about to say, I have my 2020 list going. I think I've got about 15, 20 guys on there kind of in the order that I like them at this point. So we're definitely going to hit Devi probably in the next month. I'm definitely thinking, we're at that point. We still need to talk about where all these rookies fit into our startup. That's probably next week, rookies and startup.
Yep.
But Devi's coming real soon. So, keep it locked here to whatever platform you're watching us on, whether it's Twitch, Facebook, Restream. I mean, any of these places, you can keep it locked here. So, thank you guys for sticking around and hanging out with us tonight. If you have questions, let us know. Don't forget to check out rotoheat.com. Check out our podcasts. I know I heard something about Sully's over on iTunes now with Sully's 2 cents. So make sure you check him out. Check out Kevin with the Dynasty Blockheads, and we'll see you guys soon.
All right. Thank you, guys.